The other day, a dear friend of mine was in town, and I got to have a chance to have dinner with him. Or maybe he had dinner with me. Or maybe we had dinner with each other. It doesn't matter. For this long term relationship, we savor, we relish, we embrace, we just enjoy and celebrate the moments we get to break bread together and talk endlessly about all kinds of things. He's a luminary in his field. And well, me, I kind of have no lumens left. I'm old, I'm isolated, and I'm struggling. I'm aging like a carton of milk. But still, we connect, we get to talk, and it just does so much for me, and I hope for him. But my buddy would challenge me, having all these disparaging, self deprecating remarks. He would dope slap me in the back of the head and remind me that for the 10, 12 years he's known me, all the progress I made. Perhaps, I'm not 100% sure. Besides, I'm stubborn as fuck, and you know what? Being like this keeps my hubris at bay. It allows me not to get all caught up in my own PR. My buddy and I were hanging out over dinner and later drinks, and I mentioned something that I generally say when I'm doing my crisis intervention volunteer work, that I say to those who are struggling, are in crisis. I say to them, connection is at the heart of our humanity. Connection is at the heart of our humanity. I say that to let them know that them coming in, sharing, talking is a connection that will help them. That will give them a chance to see their humanity when they do it, you know, within the organization or with others. It is the way to validate who you are and what you are better. Humans, you, me, everybody you know, we can't live in isolation. We need connection. Of course, there's always Ted Kaczynski who didn't need people other than what he did. But the point is, we humans need connection. It seemed my buddy hadn't heard it said quite that way, though this Robert Oppenheimer brainiac surely wrote a grad school paper or thesis on connection and humanity. That's what today's topic is. I want to talk about random acts of meaning, what it means to connect, what it does for others and us. So let's see what happens. As I mentioned, in the extreme, I use that phrase, when I'm doing crisis intervention. It helps them know, it helps them see that connection matters. But in everyday life, I don't use it as intensely, but I do it in small ways. And I think small ways means a lot. Ways that help me to recognize my own humanity and others to feel human so they do not feel invisible. And quite honestly, so I don't feel invisible. I mean, I do live in isolation. So here's an example. This connection, this trying to, let others know they're not invisible. So I'm at my local grocery store, which is Whole Foods, and that's a whole nother story in this zip code. But when I go in there, the people at the counter, people working the aisles, I generally nod, say hi, make eye contact, let them know they're not invisible. And I particularly do this with the cashiers because they're working, they're pulling items. I ask how they're doing, what's their week like, what's going on, looking forward to getting out of work, so on and so forth. And I do that. And I do that so they feel connected to me, they don't feel invisible, and it doesn't feel like a transaction to them, but mostly to me. Transactional items like this, transactional events are bullshit. So I noticed a sign. She had a sign that said cashier in training. I mentioned to her, I said, hey, how's the training going? She snickered and laughed. She said, I've been here 3 years. I'm the fastest cashier here. But the funny thing is, people will come up, see the sign, and they say they don't have time for this. And they'll go to another aisle. Seriously. Welcome to my neighborhood. The deeply compassionate, understanding, empathetic folks in the hood, in my neighborhood. I get it. I mean, bro, you got to get back to your desk. You got to get back to the trading desk. You got to get back to buying, selling, arbitrage, making money. You have a vest on. You have Airbirds. That's what you do. You don't have time to connect. You don't have time for compassion. Moms, I know, Pilates, yoga, tradwife, nanny management, play dates. Those are all important. Those are the transactions you need to make. Those are the transactional relationships you have, not with this cashier, not with these folks. I get it. I was being intentionally harsh and sarcastic. I'm not sure everyone, is that way, but I'm making it as a point. And what I want to do now, is let's take a look from my limited perspective and from some data that I found, data on random acts of kindness to bolster happiness. And I'm going to share some of that with you, some of this data, just so you understand its importance and what it does. So I found this recent article in Scientific American, and the title is Kindness Can Have Unexpectedly Positive Consequences. And that article title looks at a recent study done by Nicholas Epley of behavioral science out of the University of Chicago, who examined the possible explanations of why random acts of kindness does not capture the full magnitude of value for the recipient. The link is in the show notes, and I'm going to just mention a couple highlights from it. Take a look at it. It's really interesting, and I think it will help prove my point here. Here's a couple bulleted points. Again, if you get a chance to read the article, I think it will just support what I'm doing here. And I'm going to read from it, so sorry I'm looking away. Participants underestimated their positive impact. It really mattered to the recipients. Recipients focused more on the warmth of the act than of an item shared. The study used like cupcakes or things that people did for others. But the reality is the warmth of the act was appreciated. And there is a pay forward component to each of these acts. Those recipients will hear it and they will do it. It's kind of like see one, do one, teach one. It's really quite lovely, and I think it's pretty powerful. I want to read a quote from the article. It comes toward the end, and I think it captures it, so excuse me for looking away. These findings suggest that what might seem small when we are deciding whether to do something nice for someone else could matter a great deal to the person we do it for. Given that warm gestures can enhance our own mood, brighten the day of another person, why not choose kindness when we can? And one of the points here is what it does for us. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more. This sort of behavior that I'm presenting, this random act of kindness that I did, may not have been a part of my life for the whole time. I can be terribly Little Prince-like. But it began shortly after Donna died. I got deeply involved in the grief community, and I found that when they asked me how I'm doing, when they asked me about Donna, when they recognized my struggle or just note a kind word about all I was going through, it gave me a lift. It made me feel that I wasn't invisible. It made me feel connected, less alone, and not so broken. Did it so much so, I thought maybe I'll expand it and do it to others, not just in the grief community, but randomly. And it works for me. It does much for others, but it does so much for me. Knowing that what it did for me, I can do for someone else. Not everybody. Try it out. Give it a moment. Give a bit of kindness and just see. Less for them and more for you. I'm sort of conflating the words kindness and meaning. And let me just clarify that. The kindness you give, you'll get meaning from it. They'll get meaning from it. It is about the kindness, the random acts of meaning we can get through being kind, through taking a second. It doesn't take a lot. Being transactional may provide you with something. But transactions are vapid. Take a moment. Connect. It takes nothing and does so much, not just for others. I'm not telling you to be Mother Teresa. I'm not suggesting that. But when we're all caught up in our own axle, doing something like that can help unwind us. Give us a moment. So this week, I saw the play Uncle Vanya by Anton Chekhov. And there's a brochure about Chekhov in the lobby, and I grabbed it. And I learned in there, a couple things. Number one, Chekhov was a doctor, he was a psychologist. And I want to read something from it. His focus, Chekhov's, landed not so much on the experience of pain itself as on the problem of living next to pain. If I'm aware of the agony around me, he asked, how do I go about my life while it continues unbated? That is, without either hardening my heart or losing my mind. I think that says a lot. It says a lot to me about why I do the crisis intervention. It touches my humanity by giving, by helping others. But in small ways, as I've shared here, not knowing what somebody else is struggling with, doing that random act of meaning, that random act of kindness, makes me feel human. And from what I shared, makes others feel human and connected. It does a lot. So, try it out. I double dog dare you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Commenting if you did, please do. Share if you will. Again, thank you. Peace out, Scouts.